It's, again, baffling to me that the same people who are calling for civil war were the same people who said absolutely nothing when she was shot. Or maybe we should talk that same night about the madman who had a hit list of 42 Democrats on it, who then went over and shot 9 times the state senator that Melissa Hortman worked with. John Hoffman took 9 shots to his body. His wife, Yvette, took 8 shots to her body inside their family home.
Yeah, those are realities that Trump seems unable to remember. I would also like to remind everybody watching that the President of the United States, while running against Hillary Clinton, straight up said maybe the Second Amendment people can do something about her. That's a threat, a direct call to political violence. He also made fun of the Paul Pelosi attack, making light of political violence that I thought only the radical left does. How strange. His son, of course, also posting the Paul Pelosi Halloween costume, which was underwear and a hammer, which was endorsing and making light of political violence. But those didn't happen because they were on the right, and so they're not supposed to be remembered during a right-wing administration. That clip you just saw was this morning on MSNBC, Joe Scarborough giving a gruesome monologue about recent murders and attacks against Democratic lawmakers and their families. Here's more of what the Morning Joe host said.
This followed Josh Shapiro having his home, an attempted arson, trying to burn down his home with his wife and his children sleeping inside of it. His goal, he admitted, was to burn the house down, find the Democratic governor of the state of Pennsylvania, and then beat him to death with a hammer. What did we hear after Paul Pelosi, an 82-year-old man, get brutalized and hit in the head with? What did we hear? We heard laughter. We heard jokes repeatedly from the President of the United States.
Yep. And who are we if we cannot, in every instance, blanketly, with no exception, just condemn political violence on both sides? Because I mourn political violence. I mourn the death of Charlie Kirk. But I also mourn where we are in this country and any attacks of people on the left as well. You know, I knew Charlie a little bit. I also am friends with Governor Shapiro of Pennsylvania's daughter, who was in the house during that attack. This is happening on both sides. It's coming closer and closer to a daily reality for us in this country, and it just can't be. It has to stop. Obviously. Scarborough continued by saying, quote, "How can you sit back sanctimoniously and say that this is a civil war and it's all one side when we see the pain and the agony visited upon families and children of Charlie Kirk, of the Hortman, of the Pelosi's? Some of you are saying, oh, they deserved it. They're Democrats. Don't do that. Don't do that. They're all Americans. They're all Americans. They're all precious in God's eyes. And the attack against them must be condemned as strongly as possible." May I add there that the President of the United States went on Fox News when asked about political violence on both sides, said, "I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but I couldn't care less." Couldn't care less. And then went on to justify violence and endorsing of violence against Democrats. That's the president. What on earth? He continued, Scarborough, by saying, "But to use Charlie Kirk's death, or if Democrats tried to use Melissa Hortman's death, leaders, I'm talking about elected leaders, not freaks on the outer fringes of social media, it's just despicable. It's just absolutely despicable. I don't know who you think you're lying to, but we know there's a problem on both sides. We have to come together or this will continue." Of course, that is the case. Of course, that is true. But how do we come together when our leaders are pretending the issue only exists on one side and further, much worse, using it to inflame tensions towards that side when it just isn't at all supported by any facts? You have to stop that. You have to have your belief in country, your dedication and loyalty to country over party and to our common humanity over party. Some things are a bridge too far. Glorifying violence on one side, pretending violence only comes from one side, calling one side terrorists and the other side patriots when they commit violence is just obviously wrong. You know that in your heart. Don't let your heart become so callous that you don't feel it anymore. Jackson.
I think that you know, on the one hand, it's been very shocking, the way that Charlie Kirk went out. But on the other hand, this type of gun violence in our country isn't new. I think that it's a different flavor now, so it's caught our attention again. But we get, we have school shootings, shootings in synagogues, churches, malls, supermarkets, pretty much on a weekly basis. And so I think that this instance kind of woke us up again to the fact that so many people out here are walking around with weapons. Um, there's not anything being done whatsoever about any of the factors that lead to gun violence. And I think that we probably should expect political violence, maybe not to like skyrocket, but I think we'll definitely see some more of it without a doubt. Especially as you pointed out, when you have the president of the United States encouraging it, you got people like Stephen Miller in the Trump administration, people like Pete Hegseth in the Trump administration, JD Vance, who are waging war on people's speech and opinions on Charlie Kirk online, things along those lines. But at the end of the day, I think that, again, like I said, it was shocking the way that, because everyone saw it. We saw the video. But what's new? What's really different? I implore all of us to really think about that as we go forward. We're not really in a new environment. We've always been in a violent environment where it's way too easy for a little bit of anybody to get guns. Why does an 18, 19-year-old need an AR-15? Why does Joe in the middle of Kansas need a whole wall full of assault rifles? These are the real issues that are going to solve this, because we can come together, but at the end of the day, there's still way too many people with guns who should not have them. So yeah.
I do agree that we've had violence in this country for a long time. I think the new environment we're in is the normalizing of it from the very top, from our news anchors on the right, from our leaders from the Oval Office directly, and from many on the right and left that have normalized it on social media and supported it or cheered it on when it's on the other side, as though humans are born on one side or another. Our political affiliations, party wise, are just ways to help organize our society. I've hated the two-party system for a long time. I think it's divisive by its very nature. But just remember, these are just ways to organize ideas. They are not ways to define ourselves and demonize people who see things differently. The whole American experiment, the experiment of any democracy and any nation with free speech, is to debate, is to evolve constantly. There's supposed to be a natural push and pull between conservatives and liberals. Liberals push society forward, progressives progress the world forward, and conservatives slow it down so that rampant changes aren't made that perhaps society isn't ready for, or that maybe shouldn't happen. And that natural check and balance is a healthy thing when you start to see those who disagree with you and are trying to debate you or trying to disagree with the legislation you're trying to put forward as enemies. Well, then we've really gone a bridge too far. Let's just come back, cross back over that bridge.